Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm Holly and this week I'm going to be showing you guys how I took this drawing and turned it into a one-of-a-kind piece of art. So kind of how I went from point A to point B here will be kind of the entirety of this video. I thought this would be a really cool video because of the fact that it kind of incorporates my background of tattooing and painting. And so I wanted to kind of show you all what that process looks like. So for those of you who want to follow along, what I'm going to need you to grab is a pen or a pencil, some tracing paper, some graphite paper. And if you don't have graphite paper, you can always just, use a regular piece of paper and just cover the back in just like some pencil and use that to translate your drawing over later. And then of course, whatever you want to put it on. So I chose a piece of wood, totally up to you. I would say canvas is probably easier than translating things to wood, but whatever you decide, or like watercolor paper, things like that. And then whatever paint you want to use. So I chose a mixture of acrylic and watercolor, and I will show you guys why I decided to do both of them for different effects throughout this video. So let's go ahead and get started. So we've got our super sexy coffee lady, and I am gonna grab my piece of tracing paper and I'm just gonna line this up in the corner. Normally I would use painter's tape for this, but I didn't have any, or at least I can't find it. So I'm gonna take a piece of packing tape and just go really slowly. It's a good thing there's nothing on this page because I'll probably end up ripping it when I take this off, or I'll just cut it in the seam. But I'm gonna tape that in there, make sure that this doesn't go anywhere. And then I'm gonna go ahead and use my pen to outline this entire thing as best as I can. And this is just like an artist loft. Like, I think this pen was like $3 or $4, but I love these pens and they're a little bit thicker. This is the 1 point thickness there, and I think it goes over much better, especially because if I'm thinking about painting, I really can't get anything that thin anyways, and so it doesn't really make any sense to try and get like a super tiny micron and do any of this. So we're gonna trace over our entire lady. There we go. There's our badass coffee chick. Okay, so I'm gonna see if I can get this off. Yes. Luckily this paper is a little waxy, so cool. Okay, so now we're gonna get our piece of wood, and I'm gonna cut this out. I want her kind of at an angle. I think it might get a little cut off, but I think kind of having something like that would be cuter. She didn't want to stick something in the middle, and I'm kind of using that like rule of thirds here. So this is, yeah, kind of like this line and like this knot here. I'm looking at kind of like the third, and I'm trying to put her more over here and then leaving a third blank space, which would be like right there. And then, of course, I'm going to go in and draw the extra part once I get this transferred, because I feel like that'll just be overall easier. Okay, so I'm going to grab those pieces of tape, and we're going to tape her down right where we want, but enough that we can slide our tracing paper in there. So I'm going to tape right up here where I don't need to get to, and then let's go like right here. Yeah. The less this moves, the better. This is probably going to be like the most important part of this, just because wood is kind of a pain in the ass to erase on. I mean, you can erase on it, but it only goes so far. So if you get like too much just like crap in the wood, you'll probably end up having to sand it, which is where that sandpaper comes in. And I personally would rather avoid that step if possible, just because like you got to be outside and, you know, all that. So, okay. I've got my tracing paper. If you're wondering what I'm using, it's this Mona Lisa graphite paper. To be honest, I don't even know if they still make this. I bought this probably 13 years ago and have reused it consistently because you can pretty much reuse pieces of paper constantly in these, so highly recommend. And I'm just gonna, well, maybe I'll lift this up a little bit first because luckily it's not too adhesive, but yeah, you see how we're starting to kind of get some stuff under there just by sliding. So let's go ahead and make sure this goes under all of that. So under all of our lines that we've drawn, and then it leaves this spot. So I'm gonna kind of tape this. Now this part doesn't really matter as much what you use as long as you use pressure. And so for me, I kind of like to use like a cheap pen or something for this, just because like I'm not going to waste graphite, and it does kind of have like this metallic look. And I also find that it's just like, you know, we're not gonna have to sharpen it. So all right, so now I'm gonna go in and trace again. Now if you push a little too hard though, the one thing is you will get like indents in your wood, just because I am using a softer wood. I guess it really depends on like what kind of wood you end up using for this, but I think I paid like $3 for this piece of wood, or maybe not even. I think I might have gotten this at like an estate sale, because I feel like every time I go to an estate sale, I'm always just looking for the art stuff that no one else really knows the value of. Okay, let's see how she looks. Oh, come on. Hell yeah. Pretty good. The only thing is now we have to draw the rest of the cup. So how I did this was trying to get like the equal amount of distance from here to here. So if there's this much, should end right at about there, putting that barbed wire right in the middle. Okay, time to get our paint. Okay, so we're gonna start with our black. I am literally just using Craft Smart like $1 black paint. It works great. The one thing I do like about this stuff is it flows a little bit more, and for wood, which is pretty absorbent, dry, it kind of works well. And then I'm gonna be using a Princeton Velvet Touch liner. Normally, I don't really think quality of paint matters as much as like a good brush does, especially when you're trying to get like clean lines. I'm gonna dip my paintbrush in a little bit of water just to kind of help it flow a little bit more, because even though that this paint is a little bit more flowy, I still like it to be a little bit more than that. But you want to be careful that you don't put too much that like the ink absorbs into the wood and it doesn't end up being like clean. So most of this is dry. I'm gonna kind of go in and try to erase like some of these extra lines, kind of like up in her cheek and over here. I don't know if it's fully gonna come off. Like it lightens a little bit, but honestly, I might just take a piece of like, what is this? Like, yeah, 150 grit sandpaper. And I always fold it just to kind of get a corner. And just kind of use this, yeah, see how that kind of like lightens up, and we can kind of go back over this later. I did kind of do a little bit up here off camera just because this was bothering the absolute crap out of me, and I just figured it was going to be a little bit more than what was worth showing. But just so you can kind of see how I got a couple of things out of here, just really trying to go in with that sharp edge here, and having nails really helps for this. But I really only need the outside edge to be good, just because I'm going to start going in with like some regular acrylic paint. But the things that really needed to make sure that they didn't have any sort of like paint on it was like kind of like these like little splotches like here, because I wanted to do watercolor over like where, don't mind the camera shaking, over this area, and I really didn't want to have to use like acrylic, and so it would be opaque and it would show through the wood grain itself. And so making sure that it's not like, oh, this like nice like caramely colored wash and then just like spot of acrylic black in there. So there is that. I'm just gonna try and erase the rest of this. Okay. So now we're gonna go in and start to kind of fill stuff in. So I don't really mind with that, just because we are gonna go in with acrylic paint on this one. And we're gonna give it like that nice like silvery tone. And by silver, when you're painting it, I mean gray. All right, so now we're gonna do the American traditional type of shading, which involves some pretty harsh black. I haven't fully decided on the background of like the saucer and everything and what color that was going to be, so we're just gonna go ahead and start with her top and her bandana. And I'm just gonna kind of cover a lot of the details around this barbed wire. I'm gonna go back over, but it's really just kind of important that I know like where that center line is. I swear the only thing that goes through my head with these cans is like, careful SpongeBob, careful SpongeBob, careful SpongeBob. I can't stop. Oh. Okay, I'm gonna be so real right here. I absolutely hate this. Not the whole thing, but like all of this white and gray is just kind of lame, and I feel like the barbed wire might be a little aggressive. Like, I'm looking for like edgy, but still grandma core-esque, because she is sitting in a coffee cup, like lax coffee girl, you know? Like someone you'd find at a coffee shop just chilling. And this just feels a little much. So we're gonna change the color entirely and forget all of the work we've already done, because that's what being an artist is constantly doing this. Okay, I think I've decided to kind of go with the yellow that's in her hair, just because, well, I feel like it needs more of this, and I'm going for more of like that like original American traditional color scheme of the olive green, the almost like yellow ochre and red color. So we're gonna kind of go with that. That was fun for a second. Ooh, actually, I don't hate the way that layers. That's the thing about yellow though, is you really have to go over things a lot. I'm gonna do my best to not have to do this black outline again, because, well, we've only done it like a million times now, over and over and over again. That's the only thing about this. And like, I would do all of this in watercolor if I knew that I wasn't gonna have to do this a million times to get the line the correct width and like even. We will wait for this to dry, and then we'll come back and do another layer. Okay, well, once again, I'm indecisive, and this has dried a little bit, and so, well, not all of it, but I think I want to go a little bit more burgundy, or like purpley with this color. Yellow's a little bright, so I think if we mix in kind of like this, like, almost like violet-y red, that might go a little bit better. Okay, next we're just gonna use one of the really cheap metallic gold paints, and we're gonna go over this again. Okay, so now we get to my favorite part, which is pulling out the watercolors for the coffee, because I want to be translucent so you can see the wood grain and just also make it look like it's liquid, right? Which usually you can see through. So this is my favorite thing. It comes with basically 2 palettes that are like built in, and then all of these watercolors. It's great for portable painting, which I love. And so I'm gonna go ahead and pull out some of my colors. It never comes with a straight brown, but it does have a yellow ochre and Indian red. And then typically what you'll want to do to kind of neutralize that is usually put in some sort of blue. I like using this like Payne's gray, which kind of ends up being like a darker blue color. So we're gonna go ahead and mix those to get the brown that we want. I'm also thinking she needs a bit more tattoos here, so I'm gonna go ahead and put that heart that was originally on her arm down here. I did also pull out this little needle here. This is from my clay tools, but honestly, it helps a lot with like things like this, where this leaf is kind of together, and I just want like a little bit more of a point right in here. So I'm just gonna try and kind of scrape up some of that paint. Honestly, an X-Acto knife would be great for this, but I've lost mine and I'm too lazy to figure out where it went. So here we are. Kind of worked, whatever. Close enough. Just gonna add in a little bit of green into each of these. Now, while that's all drying, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this pen cap, and this could be like an old straw, something like that, but I'm just gonna dip it in some white, just like that. And we're gonna use that to make little bubbles for the coffee. Quick, get some of that residual off of the edges here. That doesn't seem like that fits too well. Yeah, I'm gonna use this white to basically make the rest of my details. So I'm gonna make a couple more small ones around here. Okay, so the very last thing I want to do on here is I think it really needs something to kind of wrap this around the edge. So this kind of like side bevel here, we're going to paint it green because I think there needs to be something that matches the interior here to kind of bring that outward. So it'll be wood, green, wood again. So I'm going to grab my straight brush. We're just going to try our best to get the line that we want. Okay, so now I have like even coverage, but there are a couple spots that I like overdid this. There are spots like kind of in here where I obviously like overdrew a little bit and a tiny bit here. So I'm just gonna go in with, I've got 150 grit sandpaper, and I'm just gonna cool. So the last thing I'm going to do to this, and it's not totally necessary, but I'm going to be adding some clear polyurethane to this just to kind of give it that shine and bring out the natural wood in this. You can do this with stain or anything like that, but I will be using a foam brush, this polyurethane, and then of course wearing gloves and a mask for my protection. And I'm just going to apply a thin layer with this and then leave it outside, which obviously we're outside now because ventilation. So I don't want this in my house. So I'm just gonna do a quick coat like that and I'll come back and show you what it looks like. Okay everyone, so there you have it. That is how we translated our drawing to this cute little piece of wood. And I think she's gorgeous. I love her, despite the blood, sweat, and tears that went into trying to make her perfect, which you guys saw a lot of, if not all of it, except for my face during the parts where I messed up, where I just wanted to cry. Life of an artist. If you get it, you get it, you know. But thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate you being here. And if you like this video, go ahead and hit like, subscribe, leave a comment. If you guys have a name for this piece of art, also leave a comment, because I'm terrible at naming my art pieces and I always love feedback on that. So I will see you all next time.